Welcome to Demo, the show where we have companies come in and provide us with demonstrations of their products or services or really cool features. Today I'm joined by Peter Pizarros. He is the Chief Strategy and Design Officer at New Relic. Welcome to Demo.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so tell me a little bit about New Relic and what you guys do. I believe you're an observability platform.
That's right.
And then tell us about the new generative AI features that are the reason you're here basically.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So an observability company means that what we do is we help companies who use software to serve their customers keep their production systems up and running. Mm-hmm. So let's say you're a bank, you've got a lot of transactions flowing through your system every minute of the day. And if your transactions are flowing more slowly, or gosh forbid, if there's a problem with your production system and your services are down, that can cost you real money.
Yeah.
So if you install New Relic as part of your production infrastructure, we'll monitor the services that make up your production system. And when there are problems, we alert you to when problems, hopefully before things go catastrophically wrong. And you can go in and debug those problems and get your system back up and running quickly.
Okay, and so what are the new generative AI features that you've recently introduced to this platform? Because this came before Gen AI took off, right? Yeah.
That's right. New Relic is actually a 14-year-old company,
okay,
and we've been serving this market for a long time. But with the advent of generative AI, we've enhanced our customer experience to make it easier to get insights from the data we collect from your production environment.
Okay, and so who is this product then mainly for? What kind of job roles, companies, big, small, medium size?
Well, that's the really exciting thing about generative AI as applied to observability, because we estimate there are about 50 million software engineers in the world, but only about 1 to 2 million of them who are trained on observability tools. Mm-hmm. Now, what that means is there are a lot of application developers out there that sort of push and pray, which means they write the code, they commit their code, they push it to production, and they hope it works because they don't have the training or the tools to really see what's happening. So with our Gen AI product, we open up the aperture. We allow more and more people to get the benefit of observability by making it easier to use. And I'll show you some examples
of that.
Okay,
let's get right into the demo.
Awesome. Well, let's first take a look at what New Relic is. And this is the main page where you see an overview, a bird's eye view of your entire production estate. So you can see here, each row in this table represents one of the things that New Relic is observing. So we've got your APM services. Mm-hmm. These are applications that are running. We support OpenTelemetry. We've got hosts, which is sort of the infrastructure on which your software is running, containers, mobile applications, browser applications. So literally anything you could imagine can be observed by New Relic. And that also includes things that may be unique to your business. Let's say, for example, one of our biggest customers is a popular restaurant chain. And I'm sure you've been in restaurants where you can order via a kiosk. Mm-hmm. Well, that runs some custom hardware and software to take your order. And this restaurant chain is observing all of those instances of all those order machines, and they want those to remain up and running, of course, but they also have custom metrics that they're tracking, like what's the average order size. And so you can gather all of that information here in New Relic and have it under one umbrella.
Okay.
So now let's take a look at what you can do with Gen AI. So in the next example, like one of the ways that New Relic really, really works is by alerting you when something's wrong. So we have this alerts and AI capability that's built right in. So you can see these are the problems in our system. So these are all the active incidents that are happening in production. Of course, we've got this simulated, so the system isn't really this problematic.
Okay.
But you can see a description of all the issues, and once you find one that you want to try to debug, you can dig in a little deeper. Now, I will say that most of the time, the way that engineers enter the service is through an alert that we push to them via an email or push to their mobile application. And so they can jump right into this particular issue, and we can see that the title is Apdex is less than 0.9 for at least 20 minutes on a service called Order Composer. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't really remember what Apdex is.
Okay,
so this is the first way that Gen AI can help. I can say, what is Apdex? And you can see here, I'm typing in the lower right-hand corner in this sort of sidekick experience where we've got our Gen AI chat experience where it can describe to you exactly what you want and tell you what is showing up in the user interface. So that's the first use case.
Okay.
Super helpful for people to learn how to use the software. But we can do things that are much more sophisticated than that, such as show me response time over the last day. we're testing my typing skills. Because now that we've learned that Apdex is a measure of application performance, we want to understand, like, well, why is the application slow? Why is it not giving a good user experience? So we can ask specific questions, and what the AI will do in this case is translate my English question. And by the way, we support any language, Spanish, German, French, whatever your native language is. And you can ask your questions in English, and New Relic AI will convert this into a query and execute the query for you, so you can see a visualization of the response time over the last day.
Okay.
And you can see here, response time, bigger numbers are worse.
Yeah, so that seems bad.
So this seems bad.
Yeah.
There's something going on.
Okay.
And so what we can do is try to troubleshoot further. And we could click through the UI and find out this information. But now that we have Gen AI built right in, I can say things like search. There may be some errors, so I want to say search for error in the logs.
Okay.
And our Gen AI platform will know exactly what to do with that. It understands the context of which logs to search in, because I'm looking at a particular service. And it's going to convert, again, my English language question into a query that'll be executed for me. And one of the things that's nice about this interface is because you see here that will tell you what the query is that was executed. You can learn how to write your own queries and execute them directly. So now here we see some of the results from the logs that contain errors. So again, we can either do this through a Gen AI interface, or if we want, we can click right through to the place where the logs are kept and look into the detail of logs by just clicking on one of the log lines that has an error in it.
Okay.
And here's where things get even more insightful, is because we can use New Relic AI to explain what happens when there are errors. So in this case, we've identified a particular log line that has an error in it, and we can feed that to our LLM and take in information from the production telemetry, from the service, from the logs, and even the code that was used to build the service in order to form a more complete picture of what might be going wrong. And so this is a really cool innovation, because it can give you insights more quickly than you might be able to do on your own, doing research with a Google search and
before you added all,
Overflow.
and before you added all of this, the generative AI component, it would have to be done through people that knew the platform in specific language queries and specific kind of, like, you would have to know where you're going to find the explanation of what the error was, correct?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of input into this equation, because you've got to be trained on observability. You've got to understand the software that's running very deeply. And you've got to understand what these types of errors happen in you've got to also you have to have memorized Stack Overflow, essentially, because when this particular error happens, there are things that you can find online that will guide you towards the solution. So what's fantastic about this interface is that you can have a conversation with an AI that understands all of those things, and it can get you right to the solution, even if you're not an expert.
Yeah. Does this open up the platform, the New Relic platform, to new users within the company that's using it? You know, maybe you had a highly specific trained staff of 3 or 4 people that were using it. Now you can open that up to more developers, engineers, IT staff, things like that.
You're spot on.
Okay.
So let me jump to
another one. This is cool.
Yeah. So we have dashboards as part of our service, and you can ask your AI to describe the dashboard to you, and it can tell you what these numbers mean, which is phenomenal. And we can even, if this is a particular service that's having some errors, so if I click on a particular error, you can see here we've got errors inbox. I can see one instance of this error is throwing me a stack trace. And a stack trace is sort of like a map within your code base where the problem happens. So all applications do this. So now we've created this capability to open this in your IDE, and this is through our CodeStream extension, where we've got the ability to load up your error stack trace into the IDE, and I can click to navigate through the code base to see where the problem's happening.
This is probably where you lose me as a programmer.
Right.
I'm like, whoa.
But for application developers, like this,
They love this stuff.
is the coolest thing, because we've got the information about the error, we've got production telemetry, and we've got your code, and we feed it all into the LLM, and it can tell you what's going on. And it's amazing, because not only can it tell you what's going on, but it can suggest the fix. So this code right here is like
step
automatically fixes for you.
It's not actually fixing it yet, or
well,
is
it's
it?
Suggesting the fix. So there's still a human in the loop.
Sure.
You still have to look at the code that it's suggesting,
Yeah.
but more often than not, it gets it right.
Have you been able to figure out a difference in the time, like before the tool, after the tool? How much improvement are you getting?
Yeah, from talking to our customers, we're about a 50% hit rate on like whether the suggestion that we have is exactly the right fix, which is a pretty phenomenal accelerator to get faster resolution to your problem.
Sure. Anything else that you wanted?
No, that was the finale.
Okay.
So
All right. Yeah. So we're hearing of a lot of companies that are doing in the observability space where they're adding a lot of these Gen AI features and is it the same thing, or is your product, what differentiates you?
I think the last statistics I heard was that 96% of the Fortune 100 are adding Gen AI capabilities. So this is no longer an experimental thing, like it's happening. And for every one of these companies, as they add features like I just demoed to you, it's a brand new world. There's a new technology stack, there's a new set of metrics you have to care about. Bias and hallucinations and lag becomes latency becomes super important. And all of that represents an opportunity for things to go wrong, which means that you need observability to make sure things go right.
Right.
And so New Relic also offers AI monitoring. So in addition to our ability to monitor your production estate, you can now plug in our AI monitoring capability into your software, and we'll let you know when you're having those problems.
Does that mean, so that means you're using AI to tell me whether AI is doing it correctly?
That's exactly right.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like AI all the way down.
Yeah. Peter, this is great. Where can people go for more details on this? Obviously, this is just a cut down version of the entire product, but where can they go for more info?
NewRelic.com. We have a free trial, generous free trial, so you can a free tier that you can use in perpetuity to see if it works with your software stack.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the demo.
Awesome. Thank you.